Hello Fezwearers, these are all of the Master TARDISes in Gmod, and I'll be showing you all of them in order as they appeared in the show, starting with Roger Dalgado's TARDIS, who, if you don't know, was the first actor to play the Master in the show. Then we'll move all the way up to Sacha Dhawan's TARDIS, as seen in The Power of the Doctor, but we'll get there. Dalgado's TARDIS was first seen in the third Doctor serial, The Time Monster. The Time Monster was the serial that introduced the iconic bowl-roundel TARDIS, and because this was Doctor 2 in the 70s, they didn't have the funds to make a whole new interior for the Master, so he and the Doctor shared this bowl-roundel interior. But the Master did have his own time rotor in the 1972 and 1973 TARDISes, and there's even an extra exterior in the 1972 TARDIS for the Master, which I'll talk about in a second. This is the normal Doctor version of the bowl-roundel interior, and there's one thing that really stands out to me, and that's the scanner that's on the wall. This is one of the only classic Who TARDISes to have a screen that's not just a TV or on the wall behind a scanner, it's actually incorporated into the roundel design. Anyway, got a bit off track there. Just keep in mind what this whole place looks like, especially this rotor. So this is what the Master's version looks like, and literally everything is the same apart from this rotor. I have really mixed feelings about this look. It's very different from the rest of classic Doctors, which could be a bad thing, but I think it works okay here. But to be honest, it does just feel like a last-ditch effort to try and add something, as it is just a lump of metal really. But this 1972 TARDIS also has a computer exterior for the Master. If you're paying attention earlier, you would have seen this on the wall. Now it kind of looks like a door, but it actually isn't. Okay, well it is, but it's the door for the computer exterior, and it isn't particularly what comes to mind when you think of computer, but this was over 50 years ago, remember. The door opening and closing animation looks really good, but these two doors really just emphasize how the Master's and the Doctor's TARDISes were both just the same set, and the door texture actually changes from the interior to the exterior, and that really demonstrates the complexities of the TARDIS technology. The 1973 TARDIS add-on also has the Master's rotor in it, except as in, well, the 1973 TARDIS, which I won't be talking about here. There's no other exteriors for the Master except for the ones in the comedian circuit, which I'll talk about after I show you the 1984 Master's TARDIS. Although this is an alternative version to the 1983 TARDIS, it's in its own separate add-on now, so in case you haven't actually downloaded it, the link's in the description. I assume they moved it to its own add-on because it's in a different year to the Doctor's TARDIS. You're probably familiar with the 1983 TARDIS, as it was used the most in Classic Who, but to refresh your memory, this is what it looks like. The TARDIS was used from the 5th Doctor all the way to the 7th Doctor. It has this very 80s looking console with a long hallway system, and this is the Master's version with this very 80s looking console and a big hallway system, except it's darker because the Master's bad. Obviously I'm kidding, but that is actually kind of true. It just once again demonstrates the tight budget Doctor Who had back then, but to be fair, it does make enough of a difference to make it stand out from the Doctor's TARDIS and be recognisable in its own right, which I can't really say for the previous one. It also has black accented bits on the console, and that took me an embarrassingly long time to realise. There's also no other Master exterior for this TARDIS, except for ones available in the comedian circuit, which I'll talk about now. And if you like Gmod TARDIS videos, I would suggest subscribing, as when we hit 1000 subscribers, I'll be opening a new Discord server where we can chat and you can stay on top with any new updates. The comedian circuit feature has many different categories of exteriors, but there's a whole section for Master exteriors. These have all been retextures recently, so you may not have seen them, so I'll quickly go through and show you all of them, and I'll also tell you where they appeared in the world of Doctor Who. And just so you know, these are all a part of a different add-on, not the core TARDIS add-on, and that's also linked in the description. This is the beach hut exterior, as seen in the 6th Doctor serial, The Ultimate Foe. This design is very simple, and is also one of the biggest exterior options in the comedian circuit. It does feel a little too simple in my opinion, especially as the back and sides are just bland with nothing on them. It does have a very satisfying door sound though. This is the beige kiosk, as seen in the 3rd Doctor serial, The Claws of Axos. This is even simpler than the beach hut exterior, and at certain angles it has a really weird annoying glare on it, but this also has a very satisfying door noise. This is one of my favourites, as it's the Deadly Assassin clock, which was surprisingly seen in the 4th Doctor serial, The Deadly Assassin. It's a really slim and also just good looking exterior, but the main reason I like it so much is that if you get near it and listen closely, you will hear a clock ticking, which is such a cool detail. Oh yeah, and this door also has quite a cool sound. Next is the Doric Column, which I may be mispronouncing, I have no idea, and it was first seen in the 4th Doctor's last serial, Logopolis. The updated textures make this look even better than it did before, and as you saw, I just changed the skin, and this is one of the only Master TARDISes that have multiple skins. the dark brown one you saw before, and this yellowy one. And because for some reason I'm obsessed with door noises now, this door sound is also pretty nice. Next is the Iron Maiden exterior, and it's from the and it's from the 5th Doctor serial, The King's Demons. The rustic effect on this exterior works really well and actually looks kind of realistic, but this face is unnecessarily terrifying, and I think I'm starting to have a problem because I really like this door noise as well. This next exterior is one I've always loved. Even just the concept of it is great because it's the red telephone box. And I believe it's from the 8th Doctor audio story Eyes of the Master, although I've never actually listened to it. I really like the concept of this as it's basically just a modern day version of the 1960s police telephone boxes. The exterior feels a bit slim, but apart from that it's fantastic. And because I'm apparently talking about every single door noise now, this one has the same sound as the default TARDIS doors. This is the Sarn pillar from the 5th Doctor's serial The Planet of Fire. I love the use of dimensions on this exterior, as it's literally a pillar that has pillars. I mean, it can't get much better than that. Also, the textures on this are just really good. Not that you really care at this point, but it has the same door sound as the Doric Column. The final exterior is the Traken clock. It comes from the 4th Doctor serial, The Keeper of Traken. The mirror texture has changed a bit and it's gotten a bit grainier in the texture update. Just like the Deadly Assassin clock, this one has a faint ticking noise as well. I've said it once and I'll say it again, it's a really great attention to detail and I really appreciate it. Barely anyone probably even notices it. I really like it. Which also reminds me that if you're enjoying the video so far, please leave a like. I'm desperate at this point. Just like I'm desperate to show you the War Master's TARDIS. This is Derek Jacobi's TARDIS. Although it was never actually seen on the show, as far as I'm aware, its only appearance was on a Big Finish trailer, which I didn't actually know about until I started researching this video. The trailer was made over 5 years ago, so it's not the best animation, which also means this add-on is limited in detail, especially on the exterior. This is basically just a smaller version of the Type 40 TT capsule, but also it has the colours moved around and changed a bit. The interior looks just like it's seen on the trailer, except the lighting's changed a bit. There may be a few things I missed because the console doesn't have any label controls, but the main thing that sets this TARDIS apart from any other one is the scanner on the ceiling. It doesn't work like a typical scanner as it doesn't have any like manual flight control or any UI stuff at all. But it is cool just because it's massive basically. And it actually kind of reminds me of the TV movie TARDIS, where the ceiling of that just shows where the TARDIS is in space. It's really cool. But this one works a bit differently, because this actually has 2 different images it can display. So obviously this one's the default. If you press this button right here, it will change it. Then it goes to a Gallifrey satellite. And this is Gallifrey during the Time Warp, because, well, it's the War Master's TARDIS. Anyway, I think it's really cool and it actually shows how strategically this TARDIS was used during the Time War. And it's little details like that we don't really get to see in the show, even though this wasn't actually in the show, but you know what I mean. Another cool thing in this TARDIS is that it has a toggleable cloister bell, which I've literally never seen in a TARDIS before, and surprisingly it's this red button here. So obviously when you hit it, it'll turn on the cloister bell, but also close the scanner, and it'll put some red flashing lights on. However, when this TARDIS is below 20 health, what would typically happen is that the cloister bell would come on, which it has, but you would also expect the red flashing lights to come on, but they don't. I don't know if it's just like an oversight or I don't know what happened, but obviously if you wanted red flashing lights you can just turn it on. Doesn't really make much of a difference. I just don't know why every villain has to have this very cliche looking TARDIS, where it's all just dark depressing colours. I say that, but I actually kind of like this TARDIS. It's one of the best Master TARDISes definitely. But there's one TARDIS I believe tops this one, and that's the Master's TARDIS from The Power of the Doctor. Sacha Dhawan's Master's TARDIS is a part of the 2018 to 2023 13th Doctor TARDIS add-on, which also means this is technically my 3rd video talking about this add-on. Well, that just shows how great it is. But to be fair, I've never really reviewed the Master's version in full detail before, except for now. As you can see, the exterior has like a gritty coal-like texture, and is also quite a bit darker from the normal version, as is come to be expected now I guess. It has 4 different exterior skins. They all just changed the window colour, however the last one is really special. This texture is only available for this TARDIS, and it adds this little animation onto the windows. If I remember the episode correctly, this flashing is from lights in the interior, which I'll talk about a bit more in a second. You have to admit, this does just look really cool. I just love seeing animations on exteriors, I don't know why. As you can see, the interior isn't really dark like most of the other TARDISes, but because they use the same set as Jodie Whittaker's TARDIS, it still has these little dark areas at the back, but there's not much you can do about that. And as they are the same set, one of the only things they could do to make it look different enough is change the colours and everything. So it's a bit of a mishmash, Like, I don't think it works very well, but it also just shows the chaotic mind of the Master. And as you can see, they changed the rotor, similarly to what they did in the 1972 and 1973 TARDISes. The Master has his own rotor. I just find it funny that after 50 years they still have the same budget workarounds. But for the canon of the show, this rotor is different because this is actually a Type 75 TARDIS, while the Doctor's is a Type 40. But this rotor thing is also what the Master uses to transfer energy to force regenerate the Doctor. But that's a whole nother thing. And as you can hear, the cloister bell is constantly on in this interior. That's because it was in the show, and that's also why it has that window exterior with all the flashing lights. But just to be perfectly honest, I really like this interior. I'm not a massive fan of the normal 13th Doctor interior, but it really works here, and I'm definitely not biased because this is my favourite Master interior or anything. And actually, I'm kind of curious. Tell me what your favourite TARDIS show in this video is. I'll check all of the comments in this video, because you might be able to change my opinion, I'm not really sure. And this console's the exact same as Jodie Whittaker's. So it has all the same things like the blue stabilizers, the table, and the colour control. However, the colour control works a bit differently in this TARDIS. Well, technically it works the exact same, which is the problem. As this interior is a big bundle of colours, when you use the colour control, it changes them all to one specific colour. And when you've gone through the whole rotation, it'll go back to the 13th Doctor's default colours, meaning once you press this once, you will never be able to go back to the original Master colours unless you respawn the whole TARDIS. Or if you really want, you can just do it manually, which will take ages. And it actually looks really weird seeing the default Jodie Whittaker colours with this rotor. It's kind of trippy. I also wanted to mention how cool this rotor looks with the power turned off. I think it's the reflections, but something on this just makes it look really cool. If you've been using Gmod TARDISes for a while, you may remember the Legacy TARDISes. If so, watch my retrospective review on them. Even if you've never used them, it's fun to see how things changed. And if you have, there's a nice little nostalgia trip.